Hey, good morning, y'all. Hey, Jesus is still Lord. The Word still works. All you got to do is go to it, read it, and find out what it says. I want to talk to you today, maybe a couple of days, on focus. What you focus on. You see over there in the book of Job said, "The thing that I greatly feared came upon me." All of that stuff that came upon him, all of that destruction, dismay, everything that happened to him, he said, "The thing that I greatly feared came upon me." Well, I've got hope in God. I've got hope that God's going to make things better than it was yesterday or day before. So my focus is on the blessings that are overtaking me rather than the thing that I fear. Now, I just have to say it this way. Over the last month or so, everybody's been focused on all the news, good news, bad news, whatever. And my viewership's been off, and people have talked about nothing but, what about this and what about that? Their focus is on the wrong thing. The focus ought to be on the blessings of God. That's why God said, watch this. God said, Proverbs 4:20, "My son, attend to my word. Incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them, the word, not depart from your heart, and keep it in the midst of your mouth, and so that you're saying it." So your focus ought to be on the word. Now, I'm going to talk two examples here. One about 30 years ago, I guess it'd be 35 years ago, and then one even further back than that. I used to ride dirt bikes with my boys, and we'd climb these big old hills. And Mark, he'd come to a creek. We'd ride a lot of the same places. And every time we'd go to cross that creek, everybody'd do fine but him. And he'd get right in the middle of that creek and go, whoop, blue. And we'd have to get him and the bike out of the water. And I kept saying, "Son, why do you do that? What? It's just a small creek." He said, "I guess, Dad, I've got fear falling in the creek." He focused so hard on the creek that the creek drew him to it. Now, you might not want to admit this, but I will. When I was a kid, and you probably did too, would ride bicycles, and you'd get a little bit too close to the edge. Be riding down the road, you get a little close to the ditch. We had ditches in those days, and you would fear the ditch, and before you know it, that bicycle would be taking you over to that ditch, and you could be trying your best to get away from it, and boom, boom, there you'd go in the ditch. What your focus is where you're going to go. Notice that the windshield on your car is a whole lot bigger than that little rearview mirror, because you should be focusing on where you're going, not in where you came from. Ooh, that'll preach. Your focus ought to be on God's blessings and what He's doing for you, rather than the yuck that you came out of or what you really don't want to happen in your life. That's why it says, "Attend to my word." I forget which chapter in Deuteronomy, but it says, when you rise up in the morning, you talk the word of God. When you sit around by noonday, you talk the word of God. When you go to bed at night, you talk the word of God. The reason is your focus ought to be on the word of God, the blessings of God, and let God overtake you with His blessings rather than being overtaken by the yuck that's out there in the world. Watch your focus. Maybe you've not been in the cockpit of an airplane, but you don't have a rear view mirror in an airplane because there's nothing to see back there. It's all nothing but sky. But you got to look where you're going, so you got a big windshield. So your focus ought to be on what you're wanting, what your desire is. And this is what God said about your desire. He said, if you would set your eyes on Him, delight yourself in the Lord, then He will grant you, and I love this, that's give you freely the desires of your heart. But you got to delight yourself in the Lord. Put your eyes over on God. Get your eyes off of the yuck that's out there. Yeah, there's some stuff going on. I don't know what's going to come out all of this in the end, but I'm going to tell you the blessings of God's going to overtake me because I'm focused on God, His Word, and what God says I am, and not what the Republicans and the Democrats and the news media and everybody else says I am. I'm healed. I'm delivered. I'm set free. Now watch this. I'm going to help you. If you need healing today, focus on the scriptures concerning healing. Write them out. I've got them all written out, and of course I've taught on it several times. But when my body's not doing right, I don't focus on my body. I focus on the word that says he himself bore my sicknesses and carried my diseases. If I need money, I don't read healing scriptures. I go to scriptures about wealth and riches being in your house. I go to my God supplies my needs according to his riches and glory. I focus on that I'm desiring, and then that I'm desiring is what's going to come to pass. So guard your focus. I taught you this a couple of weeks ago now about how we used to put those blinders on the mule or the horse's eyes when we were plowing with them so that they would focus on where we told them to go rather than look over there at the rabbits or look over there at something else. Well, you've got to do that. My son, attend to my word. Put the blinders on and don't be moved by all this junk. Don't be moved by what somebody else says. Be moved by the word of God. I remember one time, I want to close this little story. Somebody was sick and they'd asked 2 or 3 of us preacher boys to go to the hospital and pray for him. We got there, and this one young preacher looked at this guy, and he said, "Man, you look bad." And I thought, don't tell him that. Next thing he said was, "I know somebody that had the same sickness you have, and he wasn't near as sick as you, and he died." I said, "Hey, we don't need to build faith in sickness and dying when we're here to pray for God to heal." Where's your focus? Are you more afraid of what's liable to happen? Or are you more excited about what's really going to happen? Focus on the word, focus on the blessings of God, focus on how blessed you are and how many victories you've had. And until I'm with you tomorrow, saints, hey, remember, Jesus is still Lord and the word still works.